Hi everybody, I'm Mark Hilliard. I'm a master here at the cohort. It's called the Mystical Light Cohort, and we're part of the Arcanum. And today we're going to do Chris's Level 9 critique. It's going to be a lot of fun. He's given us some really good images. I'm going to introduce Chris now and have him tell just a wee bit about himself. Most of you all know him by now because he's very active in the cohort. Chris, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Hello, everyone. And just briefly, again, I'm Chris Almerini. I live in North Carolina. My passion is really around wildlife and landscape photography. So you'll see that here. And as I've progressed through the levels, I include a little bit more of the wildlife photography here in our pre-critique selections to hopefully get some of that through rather than just landscape images that you all may have seen before. So looking forward to it, and let's get this started.
All right, well, I'm going to share the screen. Here we go. Get rid of those mirrors. Bring up my prepared Photoshop, and this will be the first of your images of the 5 you submitted, Chris. Please tell us what you were thinking as you were sitting there looking at this scene and visualizing what you wanted to capture.
Okay. This is from the St. Augustine Alligator Farm. So if anybody's familiar with that part of Florida, this is a world-class place to go take pictures of birds. And the biggest choice is there are trees full of egrets just like this. So how do you pick a subject matter that's interesting, that's different? And I focused in on this lone bird by itself that would continually be doing different poses and stretches to show off its plumage, and settle down and just really looked at the background, which was very good. I was very concerned about a busy background or gaps in the trees that would put the sky in there. So once I had found a subject that was active and pleasing, I was making those kinds of thought decisions in my mind. Adjusted my position with my tripod. This is off of a tripod, 2 to 400 on a cropped Nikon body, a D7100, and it may or may not have a teleconverter on there. So making sure I was in a good spot to keep everything as sharp as possible while photographing it. So I settled on this and just continually shot series of images. And as you can see here, what was helping is this was front lit, and it's most noticeable in the legs because that black is just popping in all the details. So expose for the white bird, make sure you don't block up the shadows once I selected a good background and subject matter.
Okay. Wow, you put a lot of thought into this one, didn't you?
Yep.
Did he actually draw a mate in and was able to get some eggs hatched?
This is probably below the primary nest. You know, they hop down, they hop up, they grab sticks, that kind of stuff. And that's sort of your choice. Do you want the family? Do you want the environmental? I just thought the action of, I've got this image with that neck straight up in the air with it pointing down. That's why I just continued to take a series of this same subject. Yep. Because I wasn't just quite sure what was going to be the most pleasing, and I really like the S-curve in the neck with the eye facing us.
Yes. You did a really good job setting this up. The composition is stunning. The bird is stunning. I love the way he's dancing for us. It's super sharp. If we look at his eye, look at the detail in his eye. Isn't that just amazing? You did a really good job. The coloration is subtle. The exposure is just dead on. These white birds, these can be very difficult to photograph. But you've got good tonality, you've got good detail in all of the white areas. You still have some spots of bright white, which you need in an image because that just adds to the overall contrast. The very first thing I noticed, though, when I looked at this image, is I looked at the legs. This is where they always fail. You have perfect exposure, perfect detail recorded. You could not ask for a better overall image with the way you set this up, with the front lighting. He is striking a pose during the mating dance. Just everything about this I like. I even like the fact that you don't have any sky back here, because that would just blow this out and ruin the shot. You set up the composition so that even though it's not green all the way around the bird, having this area of dark coloration and high contrast back here actually makes the bird pop out of the scene even more. It works very, very well. You've got this diagonal line going down from corner to corner. You've got the natural S-curve of his neck looking into the scene. You've got this triangle taking place here between his legs. Compositionally speaking, this is perfect. The exposure is perfect. Everything about this. But being that this is level 9, dang it, Chris, we have to we have to look in a little bit closer. And this is going to seem so small and picky that you're going to go, why would you even mention that? But I'm going to. You don't have anything really impacting on the bird. Nothing is coming into his head. Nothing is cutting the feathers, except for right here. This one little twig right here. It's small. It's not that big a deal, but it's still a minor distraction. And in an attempt to further enhance the perfectness of this image, I would suggest coming in and simply cloning this away. Easy 3-minute job in Photoshop.
Yep.
Absolutely no big deal at all. And I think for our next Photoshop tips that we do this coming week, I'll set another one up like we had last week, and we'll do one on cloning these things out very easily for everybody. And Chris, I know you understand how to do all of this, so I'm not going to waste your time in this now. This is a wonderful image. And aside from that little itty-bitty tiny twig, which is distracting, I'm still going to give this the top score of a 3, because this image is stunningly perfect. We're always going to be able to nitpick an image and find something wrong.
Of course.
And that's just the one spot. Now, as you look at this, Chris, as you have presented this to me, do you see anything in this that you feel would further enhance it?
I wish, you have the raw file. This was actually shot in a horizontal original.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very cognizant of the right side, trying not to clip too much of the, I don't know what the technical term is, but let's just call them those individual strands coming out. And so
I looked at those strands, okay, on both sides that you did clip off.
Yeah.
All right. And at first I thought, well, that might be a minor pick. But given the overall how you did the composition of this image, it comes across almost like the Japanese war flag, with the beams of sunlight coming off and going off the edge of the flag.
Right.
And it actually kind of works for me on that. And I had considered this when I first looked at this, because I did look at each of your raw files. Here's the raw file, everybody, that he's talking about. Excuse me. But I think that your choices and how you set this up work. And in this case, clipping the ends of those feathers, I think that does not distract from the overall image.
Right. And in terms of elements of design or techniques, I really wanted to put that eye in that power quadrant, or the power intersection of the right third.
Mm-hmm.
and that's sort of what led me to that, as well as if you look back to the raw file, there's a even more glaring branch kind of off to its side on the left side of the image,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to crop that out. But as this bird would gyrate into different positions, that's why I had shot it probably in the landscape version, because I was constantly moving back with the camera from portrait to landscape. It's just trying to think of that availability, and not to get too technical with the equipment. Maybe even I shot this with my D800, and if I was shooting with the D800, I'm like, well, I've got plenty of file depth to allow for that. I can't remember, or is this the 7100? It's probably the 7100. Yeah, I can tell by the file name. So,
Okay.
but that's still 26 megapixels that's available, and so.
Well, 26 megapixels is more than enough. In fact, anything over 16 megapixels is enough.
So, but those are some of the extra thoughts, and when you shoot, I was there for 4 days and I shot roughly 12,000 images.
Well, that's a lot of images. I wouldn't wanted to have sat in your chair with you while you were going through those and choosing.
I can process lots of it, but you're there. I shot from an hour before sunrise to as much as I could at daylight to dark. I shot as much as I could with very little interruption.
Yeah, and it is a wonderful location. If any of you have not had an opportunity to go there during the nesting season for the egrets, it's a world-class destination. You can buy a photography pass and get in before they open and stay after they close.
Yep.
It is so spread out, and there are so many birds that you're rarely going to trip over other photographers, even though there might be a lot there.
Yep. So.
Okay. But this is a wonderful image, and I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
All right. Tell us about this one, please.
This is a scene. Whoops.
Oops, hold on.
Which one do you want?
Mark just had a brain fart. There we go.
All right. This is in a state park here in North Carolina that I visit often, and this area was new to me. I kept seeing off of the main stream this other side river or stream, if you will, and I finally decided to walk up in fall color because everybody else was at the other spot. And I said, well, what's finally up there? So I walked up probably a half a mile further into the woods and found this scene last fall, and just really liked the floating leaves here in this pool of water, followed by the small waterfall behind it, and then the trees in the background. So this was sort of at the end of the day. We had shot taken a lot of photos early, and the light was getting above the ridge line, so we were really fighting glare on there. So this is with a polarizer, tripod in the water. I'm standing in the water, probably where you see that rock in the foreground, the first little rock in the leaf pile. It's very deep, so I would have liked to have gone closer, but I knew it was not possible since I was not wearing swimming clothes. But I just thought it was a very neat scene, and I included it in my original 10 images to kind of pre-critique because I've really liked it, and I wanted to hear the perspective of other folks. So.
Okay. Well, I like the scene too. I love the fall colors. It looks like maybe we're there just a little bit after prime.
Yeah, this is 1st of November. We're down the mountain, so this is the last color hanging on.
Okay, This is the last grasp. Okay. Yeah, I do. I like the scene. I like how you set it up. The exposure's nice and sharp. Nice and it's dead on. I want to look at the waterfalls themselves a little bit here. The polarizer was a very good choice. Good color in the floating leaves. Yep, this is a well done image. But I would like to submit to you that perhaps we have a little bit too much leaves in the foreground. And this rock being here This is just perfect. This makes a perfect anchor point.
Right.
Okay. Um, everything about this screams fall and colors, and I just love it. But that being said, maybe you should consider placing this rock in the lower right-hand corner as an anchor point and getting rid of some of these leaves. Even though that they are a main part of your subject, they're just a wee bit overwhelming
Okay.
in their intensity because there's so many of them in the lower part of the picture. It overwhelms and overshadows the actual falls themselves. When you were doing this, what had you considered as your main subject?
You know, that's a great question because it's about the waterfall right there, that staircase, if you will.
Right here?
In the center. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I do remember to the right, I have this in various shape, wide angle, narrower. To the right, lots of straggly trees that have fallen and, you know, extraneous sticks and etc. So I was trying to exclude that, but then to the left, you know, it opened up into a bigger pool. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just seeing. See, that doesn't work. It's got to be a vertical. But just for your consideration.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Maybe something like this. Not even putting it on a PowerPoint, you know.
Right.
Because it's really more important to have this line taking us up through these falls in the center. But yet the falls, if I do this, the falls themselves now are actually framed by the trees and the rocks. And now we have this rock down here as a PowerPoint to anchor the image solidly in that lower right-hand corner. And I think that is the only minor nitpick on this image, is just that there were just too many leaves taking up too much space in the lower half of that image.
Okay, fair.
All right. Beautiful image. Great work. Masterfully done with the exposure. You just did it perfect. I'm going to give this one a 3 also.
Wow.
But just like I said, consider my thoughts on the on that rock and those leaves in the bottom. To me, as a viewer, not having the knowledge of what you were envisioning when you took the picture, this is just a little bit more pleasing. Okay, and we get multiple triangles in the image that actually enhance and draw our eyes from this. Now we put the rock in the lower right-hand corner. Eyes start here, and they're going to go right up the center, and that's all because of this framing of the trees and the rocks on the left and the right-hand side.
Right.
Well, I'd love to see this one done on a metal print.
I like that idea too.
Okay. All right, let's talk about this little guy. What an action shot.
All right. I went and looked this up as we were waiting just to make sure I have my correct duck. This is an American merganser, if I'm correct, from the Sylvan Heights Waterfowl Park in Scotland Neck, North Carolina, where they promote themselves as having every possible duck in the world there. And they allow photographers in to photograph these beautiful birds. And this is where zoos and things come to get restocked on waterfowl. But again, like the alligator farm, the subjects are everywhere. The ducks are beautiful. What can tell something different than just a duck floating across the water? So, from time to time they get agitated with each other, and you would notice they kind of stand up and walk across the water and flutter their wings. So I kind of would wait for that moment. And here, that I chose a little bit of a center caption because subject matter, because I want that duck to be coming in and then going out, but to yet not clip the wings off. As you practice here, if you will, because you get many opportunities to do this, you shoot at a completely appropriate shutter speed to freeze everything. Then you shoot at a slow shutter speed to kind of blur everything, and then you kind of settle in the middle, much like when you take waterfall photos. How much blurry water do you want? So I sort of settled on this. The key here is any animal photo, in my opinion, or bird, you got to have the eye, so the focus point right on the eye. And it's just an uncommon sight than just ducks floating on the water.
Wow. Well, you nailed this. This is a great action shot. It's telling a story, although I'm not sure what the story is. Right. But I wasn't there with you when you were shooting it. I love the diagonal line going up from the lower right hand to the upper left hand through the bird's wings. His eyes are super sharp. The moving water that he's kicking up is super sharp. The background is nice and blurred out. We're not seeing any of the junk and the garbage in the background. You've got a good bokeh going there. The exposure's dead on, and you've even got catch lights in the eye. Mm-hmm. Stunning image, perfect in all ways. And as much as I would like to be able to make suggestions for improvement on it, you've nailed this.
To kind of wrap it up to what we've talked about previously in other critiques, when preparing this image, I went back and hit those water droplets just with a little bit of structure in Viveza, just as see what it would add, and it really does make them pop. So I think that suggestion early on is just a great small processing tip.
Yep, it worked very good. Now, did you use the Viveza with negative structure in the background behind the duck?
I didn't have to. I probably had this at a, if it's my 2 to 4, might have been at a f4 or 5.6.
Okay.
Probably tell you right away.
All right, perfect. That's a stop.
f4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing depth of field. Then you've got so much of the bird sharp. Perfect. That's a solid 3 without any problems in it whatsoever.
The one thing I did in Viveza, though, was to probably drop control points on the background water and tone them correctly to the rest.
Okay.
So that it all kind of blended together, so you didn't have dark and light to distract. And most likely with most of these, you've darkened the background down to pop the bird.
Okay. All right. Well, amazing. A very good wildlife capture. And that is a 3. All right. Tell us about this one.
This is iconic Linville Falls along the Blue Ridge Parkway here in North Carolina. This past winter, during a polar vortex temperature, probably 15 or 20 degrees, mid-morning. It's about a 1.5 mile hike, I think, down here. It's just a straight down the mountain type of a hike into this basin. And the last few years have been really good for ice and snow here in North Carolina, but we really took advantage of it this year. And some other photographers had been down in there and been posting some great photos, and I said, well, I got to get down there. So off I went. This is about as far as I could go, because as you can see, this is covered in ice. That area to the right, usually you can walk out on, but that was just completely covered by 2 to 3 inches of ice. So I got on top of a boulder, laid my camera down on the tripod. The tripod's completely flat on top of the boulder. From a visualization standpoint, once I saw that break between the 2 pieces of ice, that was it. That is the focus point leading me back to the waterfall. And you can follow the S through the left side of the boulder all the way back to the waterfall, so it had multiple dimensions. Because it was an overcast day, the trees are blah, there's nothing there. This is a big rock area. Immediately it was screaming black and white to me, so really, the whole exposure was just get it right to preserve highlights and shadows so I can convert it to black and white.
Wow. All I can say about this is wow. Um, the exposure on this is just lovely. I mean, there's nothing that's just really too blown out or too dark. You've got good details under the rocks, in the crevices. I am seeing that this is an untagged. This does not have a profile assigned to it. I was going to say that the waterfall itself, the lower part of Linville here, is blown out, but that could very easily be nothing more than the fact that it's untagged.
Yeah, I think I've got within 3 feet to my left here, I have a 26 by 36 metal print, and there's detail in that waterfall.
Okay, good. Okay. I love everything about this. The composition, you've got this strong X happening right here in the foreground. We're being channeled, like you said, into this small area, almost like an hourglass, between the ice plates, right up to the rock and up the falls. Again, you have the S-curve here happening. I love this little bit of frozen fall right here on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
I find that just as pleasurable to look at as the main falls themselves. What I do see is that you did this at f/22 at a 1 second exposure, and you're getting probably little pieces of ice moving with the flow of the water down towards us, which is giving us these white lines.
Right.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit longer exposure, maybe somewhere in the range of 15 seconds, so that these lines would have been solid, coming all the way up through this hourglass shape here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that could have added to the overall impact of the image. I see these little slight lines for the 1 second exposure.
Right.
And I look at it and I go, what is that? What is moving through the water? Now, you probably didn't have enough ND filter to do that with you, but that is just a consideration for the future when you're taking an image of this water moving through a constriction like this, and you're getting these wonderful patterns in it. See, we're starting to get it a little bit here over this small fall here.
Right.
Boy, I would have loved to have seen that continue all the way down, coming right at us. That would have been amazing. But that is such a small suggestion. You did a wonderful job on your black and white conversion. Did you use silver?
Silver effects here, yes.
All right. Good job. That is a solid 3 in my book all day long.
Thank you.
But like I said, when you go out on scenes like this, I know how hard it is to get to Linville Falls. I've been there, I've done it, and to get down to the bottom is even more difficult. I never did make it all the way to the bottom. I'm impressed that you did this.
Thank you.
So having to carry extra equipment, like extra filter sets, anything that adds weight to that backpack makes it more difficult.
Well, this, as I looked at the camera data, I was down at 64, which on the D800 is low 2.
Yeah.
Extended shooting range, and I had my polarizer, which would just be 2 stops. So I was probably at this point fighting enough light. There was too much light coming down in there.
For sure.
And in the spring, I did buy the Stingray variable neutral density polarizer. Mm-hmm. So I would have been able to make adjustments.
Yeah, another 6 stops would have done it. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Okay. Nice image. One that I'd be proud to have in my own portfolio.
Thank you.
All right. The last image.
Last image, and this is from Pounding Mill area of the Blue Ridge Parkway, which if we've looked at some of my other images from this spot, this is an iconic sunrise location to get that layering of the Blue Ridge Mountains near Brevard, North Carolina. The difference here is in the parking lot area you may have 80 to 90 photographers and 6 or 7 workshops there. This is probably south of the parkway by about 200 yards. I took my stuff and went down there, and I said, I'm just going to shoot it slightly different today, not from the normal vantage point, because we got there. This is all about pre-visualization, I think, because we know we're going to shoot a big morning landscape. The prerequisites are that fog in the valley with hopefully a nice clouded sky. We know the sun's going to be in the right position because it's a wide, expansive area. But how can I make a different image of a kind of well-seen place or an iconic location? So we get there an hour ahead, at least, of sunrise to start scouting it out, because believe it or not, you can see the composition that you're hoping. You can see if the valley fog is there, what's going on. You'll be able to kind of determine exactly on the horizon where the sun's going to go if you haven't done the computer work to locate that initially. And so I just found an opening, looked for the layering here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes on to infinity, basically, to the horizon, and then waited for that moment. So you're shooting below the horizon with the sun. You're shooting at the horizon and then, in the cloud bank, because the sky is constantly changing color and shape and texture. And what I'm known for now, by some accident, because I have other photographers say, is that sunrise starburst. That means I'm pointing the camera directly in to the sun at this point, and the blades of the lens are causing that starburst. And I think it adds a little bit of dimension, rather than some people say, oh, that's lens flare and it's a bad thing. So I like it in this case, and the sky just was spectacular this morning, and this is a single image process too.
Okay, all right. Well, like you, I agree. Having the starburst effect of the sun shining directly into the lens and giving us refractions off the aperture blades gives these wonderful starbursts. And I look for scenes where I can intentionally do that. The fact that you pre-planned this works very well in my mind. And you're right, you've got all of these layers, the foreground, all of these hundreds of layers going off to the horizon. I love the lens flare here as well. I think that adds to it. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but in my consideration, I think that further enhances the overall image. The sky is perfect. You have enough structure there to bring out the detail. It looks moody. Up here in the top of the image, it's dark and it's moody with these purple highlights underneath that the sun's coming up and striking. It just works. And you're right, you got the fog in the valley. You've got every checklist item checked off on this image. And then when you add in the fact that you purposely stop down, let's look at that real quick. F20, okay. You purposely stop down in order to get that starburst effect of the sun coming over the horizon. You pre-visualized it and you made it happen. You can't ask for anything more than that. Little things that you might consider. I don't know what this is down here.
Huh. I don't know.
I mean, it looks like a bird.
Yeah, could have been.
But if we look at the overall image, having
clone out easily.
Yeah, I would clone these out because they were distracting enough to draw my eyes to them.
Because we got the flare there. You're looking.
Other than that,
yeah.
Yep. You're right.
And I think Mark,
this is a solid.
The other thing to consider is, you go back and forth. Well, how much of the sun should be visible? Yeah, and this is just enough. It's full above the horizon.
Yep, you get the ball of the sun. No, I like it. I like the way that you did this. I like the forethought that you gave it, and the execution was perfect. And I'm going to give you a 3 on this one too.
Wow, thank you.
Because the little things like those birds in the lower left-hand corner, those are so small. That's just a minor consideration, an afterthought. That when you go to print this image, you can go and you can correct those things. This is another one I would love to see on a glossy metal plate print. This might be one you want to consider for CNPA next year.
I hope.
You know, do you participate in the members?
I generally don't submit to those, but why not? The Linville Falls one, there's a contest, a juried show right now that black and white's going in.
Okay.
It's for that area. It's Morgantown, North Carolina, the base of that area.
Okay.
I'm expecting good things there.
All right. Well, I'm rooting for you. But Chris, this was a marvelous set of images that you gave us today. The work was impeccable. I really like the direction that you're going with these. Now, I know that you have lots of experience over the years with this type of work, but this is very well done.
Thank you.
I want to give you my congratulations. You are leveled up. I can't wait to see where you go in the next few levels. You're going to have to make a decision now, whether you stay with the cohort or whether you choose another cohort to do your Sphere 1 should you decide to do Sphere 1. All right?
Okay.
I do hope that you stay with us. Having you and Rhonda both in Sphere 2 or in Sphere 1 will be a great step forward for both of you, and I think that you can work well together. All right?
Okay.
Well, hold on a second.